Hi everyone, welcome to the channel After All That Years.
The phone rang on a Thursday night, and I almost didn't answer it. 15 years had passed since Catherine vanished from my world, taking every shred of trust I had with her. I'd rebuilt my life from scratch, nothing fancy, but it was mine, and it was quiet. When that unknown number flashed on my screen, something deep in my gut told me to let it ring. But I picked up anyway. "Hello," I said, already bracing for a sales pitch. The pause that followed felt endless. Then I heard it, a voice I'd tried so hard to forget. "Hi, it's Catherine." My hand went numb around the phone. Memories crashed over me like a tidal wave. Her affair with that contractor, what was his name? Daniel. The lies, the betrayal, the way she walked out while I was still trying to piece together what had gone wrong with us. All of it came flooding back as if no time had passed at all. I couldn't speak. What words could possibly fit this moment? "I know you're probably the last person who wants to hear from me," she continued, her voice shaky, "but I need to see you. It's urgent." Urgent. That word hung between us like a loaded gun. Urgent for who? After destroying our marriage and disappearing into thin air, what could possibly be urgent enough to break 15 years of silence? "What do you want, Catherine?" I finally managed, keeping my voice flat. "Please, just give me 30 minutes. I know I don't deserve it, but there's something you have to know." I should have hung up right there, should have blocked the number and gone back to my peaceful evening. Instead, curiosity got the better of me, that dangerous human trait that makes us poke at wounds we should leave alone. "Fine," I heard myself say. "One conversation. Then you're out of my life for good." We agreed to meet the next afternoon at a coffee shop in our old neighborhood. After I hung up, I sat staring at the phone for an hour, wondering what I'd just gotten myself into. Sleep didn't come easy that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I was back in our kitchen 15 years ago, finding her note on the counter. She'd written 3 sentences about needing to find herself, and how sorry she was. 3 sentences to explain away 8 years of marriage. The next day, I learned about Daniel married, 2 kids, and apparently worth throwing everything away for. I remember confronting him at his job site. He was cocky about it, standing there in his hard hat, like he'd won some kind of prize. "She's happy with me," he'd said, with this smug grin. "Happier than she ever was with you." I wanted to knock his teeth out, but what was the point? Catherine had already made her choice. The divorce proceedings were brutal. Catherine didn't contest anything. She just wanted out as fast as possible. She took half of everything and disappeared with Daniel. I heard through mutual friends that they'd moved across the country somewhere, but I never cared enough to find out where exactly. Good riddance, I thought. Let them have their fantasy life. I spent the next few years in a haze of anger and self-pity. Lost 20 pounds, started drinking too much, nearly lost my job at the accounting firm. My sister Rebecca finally staged an intervention of sorts, showing up at my apartment with groceries and a lecture about getting my life together. "You can't let her ruin you forever," she'd said, scrubbing dishes I'd let pile up for weeks. "She's gone, Jack. You need to decide if you're going to let that destroy you or if you're going to build something new." It took me another year to really hear what she was saying, but eventually I started putting the pieces back together. I found a new place across town, started exercising again, even went on a few dates that Rebecca set up for me. Nothing serious ever developed. I wasn't ready for that, but at least I was functioning again. By the time 5 years had passed, I'd settled into a comfortable routine. Work, gym, home, repeat. Weekends were for yard work and baseball games on TV. It wasn't exciting, but it was peaceful. The rage had cooled into something more manageable, like a scar that only aches when it rains. I rarely thought about Catherine anymore, except when something would trigger a memory, a song on the radio, a certain perfume on a stranger, the anniversary of our wedding that would pop up on my calendar every year until I finally deleted it. She'd become like a character from a movie I'd seen once and mostly forgotten. So when she called that Thursday night, it felt like getting sucker-punched by a ghost. I arrived at the coffee shop early, choosing a corner table where I could watch the door. At exactly 2:00, Catherine walked in. Time had touched her face with lines and grey hair, but I recognized her instantly. She spotted me and hesitated, like she was having second thoughts. Good, I thought. Let her squirm. She approached slowly, clutching her purse like a shield. "Thank you for coming," she said as she sat down. I crossed my arms and waited. She'd called this meeting, she could do the talking. "I don't know how to start this," she admitted, fidgeting with her wedding ring. I noticed it wasn't the one I'd given her. "Try the beginning," I said coldly. She nodded, swallowing hard. "It's about Daniel." Just hearing his name made my jaw clench. "What about him? Finally leave his wife for you?" Something flickered across her face. Guilt, fear, I couldn't tell which. "Daniel's dead. He died 2 months ago." Of all the things I'd expected her to say, this wasn't one of them. I felt nothing. No satisfaction. No sympathy. Nothing. "And this concerns me how?" I asked. "Because before he died, he told me something. About you." She reached into her purse and pulled out a folded envelope. "He wanted you to have this." My heart started pounding, though I couldn't say why. I stared at that envelope like it might bite me. "Read it," she whispered. Against my better judgment, I opened it. Daniel's handwriting was neat, careful. "Jack, if you're reading this, I'm gone. Catherine probably never told you the real story, but you deserve to know. What happened between us? It wasn't what you think. There's something bigger here, something we kept from you. I'm sorry for my part in it. I hope someday you can forgive me. Daniel." I read it twice, then a third time. "What the hell is this supposed to mean?" I demanded. "What real story?" Catherine's eyes filled with tears. "There's more you need to know. About the baby." The baby. God, I'd almost forgotten. Near the end of our marriage, Catherine had told me she was pregnant. I remember feeling this wild mix of joy and terror. We were barely hanging on as a couple, but maybe a child would fix things between us. Maybe it would give us something to fight for instead of against. 3 weeks later, she said she'd lost it. I'd held her while she cried, thinking we were mourning together. I blamed myself for not being more supportive, for not noticing she was struggling. I wondered if the stress of our failing marriage had somehow caused the miscarriage. The guilt ate at me for months. "What about it?" I asked, though part of me already knew I didn't want the answer. "I didn't lose the baby, Jack. I lied about that too." The world tilted sideways. "You what?" "I gave birth. The baby was Daniel's, and we gave her up for adoption." Her words hit me like a physical blow. For 15 years, I'd carried guilt about not being supportive enough during her miscarriage. I'd wondered if my failure as a husband had somehow caused her to lose our child. I'd even gone to therapy about it, trying to work through the shame and self-blame. And it was all lies, every tear, every moment of grief, all of it fake. "You carried another man's child while we were still married," I said slowly, the full weight of her betrayal sinking in. "You let me comfort you through a fake miscarriage while you were planning to run off with him and give birth to his baby. It wasn't like that." "What was it like then?" I snapped. "Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like you used me as emotional support while you sorted out your exit strategy." Catherine was crying now, but I felt no sympathy for her tears. "I was scared, Jack. Everything was happening so fast, and I didn't know what to do." You knew what you were doing when you climbed into bed with him. You knew what you were doing when you lied to my face about losing a baby that was never mine to begin with. Why are you telling me this now? I whispered. Catherine wiped her eyes, but more tears kept coming. Because she found me, Jack. The baby, she's 14 now, and her name is Lily. She found me through one of those DNA websites, and she wants to meet you. Meet me? Why would she want to meet me? Because I told her you were her father. I stood up so fast, my chair nearly fell over. You told her what? I had to tell her something. She was asking about her biological parents, and I panicked. I said Daniel was just someone we knew, but you were her dad. The coffee shop felt like it was spinning around me. I grabbed my coat and headed for the door, Catherine calling my name behind me. I needed air. I needed space. I needed to think. Outside, the cold hit my face like a slap. A child I'd never met thought I was her father. Catherine had lied to everyone, to me, to the girl, probably to Daniel too. How many lives had she destroyed with her web of deceit? I walked for hours, my mind churning. What was I supposed to do with this information? How could I face a 14-year-old girl who'd been told I was her father when I'd never even known she existed? What would I say to her? Hi, I'm not actually your dad, but your mom likes to lie about pretty much everything. The thought of this kid Lily sitting somewhere, wondering why her biological father had never tried to contact her, made my chest tight. She probably thought I was some deadbeat who'd abandoned her mother. She had no idea that her whole origin story was built on lies. By the time I got home, exhaustion had replaced anger. I poured myself 3 fingers of whiskey and sank into my old recliner. Part of me wanted to pretend this conversation had never happened, but another part I wasn't proud of was curious about this girl. What was she like? Did she really want to meet me? Or was this another one of Catherine's manipulations? I thought about calling my sister, but what would I tell her? Hey, Rebecca, remember my ex-wife who destroyed my life? Well, she called today to let me know she's been lying about a secret baby for 15 years, and now that secret baby wants to meet me, even though I'm not the father. It sounded insane, even in my own head. The next morning, my phone was buzzing with missed calls and texts from Catherine. I ignored them all day, but finally, as evening approached, I gave in and called her back. Jack, she answered on the first ring. Set up the meeting, I said without preamble. I want to meet her. Thank you, Catherine breathed. You have no idea. I'm not doing this for you, I cut her off. I'm doing it for her. She doesn't deserve to pay for your lies. I understand. When? Soon. But before I meet her, I want the whole truth. Everything. No more surprises. No more revelations. If I'm going to look this kid in the eye, I need to know exactly what I'm walking into. Catherine agreed to meet me the next day to fill in the missing pieces. As I hung up the phone, I wondered what other bombshells she was hiding. With Catherine, there were always more layers to peel back, more lies lurking beneath the surface. The next afternoon, I found her waiting at a different coffee shop across town. She looked even worse than the day before, like she hadn't slept or eaten since our first conversation. Start from the beginning, I said, as soon as I sat down. When did the affair start? About 6 months before I left, she said quietly. Daniel was working on the Rodriguez house down the street, remember? I started bringing him and his crew lemonade on hot days. I remembered. I'd even commented on how thoughtful she was being, bringing drinks to the construction workers. Meanwhile, she was already planning my destruction. When did you find out you were pregnant? 2 months before I told you. I took 3 tests to be sure. And you knew it was his. She nodded, unable to meet my eyes. The timing. It had to be. So, when you told me you were pregnant, you already knew it wasn't mine. Yes. The word hit me like a slap. She'd looked me in the eye, had seen my joy at thinking we were having a child together, and she'd known the whole time it was a lie. Why tell me at all? Why not just leave with him? Because I needed time to figure things out. Daniel was still married, still trying to decide what he wanted to do. I thought maybe if I bought us some time, he'd make up his mind and we could leave together. So, I was your backup plan. If Daniel didn't want you, you'd raise his baby with me and pretend it was mine. It wasn't like that. That's exactly what it was like. I leaned back, studying her face. When did you decide to fake the miscarriage? When Daniel said he was leaving his wife. We realized we could start fresh somewhere else, just the two of us. A baby would complicate things. So you gave her up for adoption. We found a good family. People who really wanted a child. They seemed perfect. And you let me believe you'd lost our baby while you were actually planning to run off and start a new life. Catherine was crying again, but her tears just made me angrier. Do you have any idea what you put me through? I blame myself for months, thinking somehow I'd failed you during the pregnancy. I went to therapy, Catherine. I spent thousands of dollars trying to work through the guilt of thinking I'd somehow caused you to miscarry. I'm sorry. Sorry doesn't fix 15 years of believing I was a failure as a husband and a potential father. We sat in silence for a moment. Then I asked the question that had been eating at me since yesterday. What happened with Daniel? Why aren't you still together? Catherine's face crumpled. He left me, about 5 years after we moved to Oregon. Found someone younger and decided he wanted to start fresh again. Apparently, I wasn't worth throwing his life away for after all. There was a bitter irony in that. Daniel had convinced her to abandon our marriage, fake a miscarriage, and give up her child, only to abandon her when something better came along. Part of me felt vindicated, but mostly I just felt sad for all the wasted years. So you've been alone for 10 years? Mostly. I had a few relationships, but nothing serious, I think. I think I was too ashamed of what I'd done. Every time someone got close, I'd think about having to explain about Lily, about the lies I'd told. It was easier to keep people at arm's length. And Lily doesn't know any of this? She knows she was adopted. Her adoptive parents, Mark and Susan Wheeler, they've been honest with her about that from the beginning. But as far as she knows, Daniel was her biological father, and you were just someone I was married to at the time. How did she find you? One of those Ancestry DNA kits. She submitted her sample when she turned 14 last year, hoping to find biological relatives. My profile matched as her mother. You'd done one of those tests too? Catherine nodded. A couple years ago, I was curious about my family history. I never thought about Lily finding me that way. I shook my head. Technology had made it impossible to keep secrets buried anymore. DNA didn't lie the way people did. What did you tell her about me? The truth, mostly. That we were married, that the marriage fell apart, that I made mistakes. But when she asked about her father, I panicked and said you were her biological dad. I told her Daniel was just the man I left you for. Jesus, Catherine. So this kid thinks I'm her father, who let another man steal my wife and child. I know how it sounds. It sounds like you painted me as either a coward or a monster. Either I didn't fight for my family, or I didn't care enough to try. That wasn't my intention. Your intentions don't matter. What matters is that there's a 14-year-old girl out there who thinks her biological father abandoned her. Catherine pulled out her phone and showed me a photo. This is her. I stared at the screen. Lily was pretty in that awkward teenage way, with dark hair like Catherine's, but a different face shape. She was smiling, but there was something tentative about her expression, like she wasn't quite sure she should be happy. She looks like you, I said. A little, but her personality is different. She's quieter than I was at that age, more thoughtful. I studied the photo for another moment, then handed the phone back. When does she want to meet? As soon as possible. She's been asking about it every day since I first contacted her. All right, set it up. We arranged to meet Lily at a park across town the next afternoon. Catherine would bring her, and we'd see what happened from there. As I left the coffee shop, I felt like I was walking into a minefield. This girl had been living with a story that wasn't true, and somehow I'd become the villain in her narrative. That night, I called Rebecca and told her everything. She listened without interrupting, which was unusual for her. So, let me get this straight, she said when I finished. Catherine had an affair, got pregnant, faked a miscarriage, gave the baby up for adoption, and now wants you to pretend to be the kid's father. That's about the size of it. And you agreed to this? I agreed to meet her. The kid didn't ask for any of this, Rebecca. She's just trying to understand where she came from. But you're not her father, Jack. You don't owe her anything. Maybe not, but she thinks I am her father. And right now, she probably thinks I'm some deadbeat who never cared enough to find her. Rebecca sighed. You always were too soft-hearted for your own good. This isn't about being soft-hearted. It's about doing the right thing. And what is the right thing? Lying to a child to make her feel better? It was a fair question, and I didn't have a good answer. All I knew was that I couldn't let Lily go on believing her biological father had abandoned her when that wasn't true. The day of the meeting, I felt like I was going to throw up. I arrived at the park 20 minutes early, pacing around the playground like a nervous father, which, in a twisted way, I guess I was supposed to be. At 3 o'clock sharp, I saw them approaching. Catherine walked beside a tall, slim girl with dark hair pulled back in a ponytail. Even from a distance, I could see the girl's nervousness in the way she hung back, letting Catherine take the lead. As they got closer, something strange happened. The girl looked up at me, and for a moment, I felt like I was looking in a mirror. Not because we looked alike, we didn't really, but there was something in her eyes, some expression that seemed familiar. Maybe it was just the nervousness, the way she was trying to appear confident while clearly being terrified. I'd worn that same expression plenty of times in my life. Jack, Catherine said as they reached me, this is Lily. The girl stepped forward, shy but determined. Hi, she said quietly. Thanks for agreeing to meet me. Her politeness broke my heart a little. Here she was, thanking me for showing up, when I should have been the one apologizing for not being there her whole life. Except I couldn't apologize for something that wasn't my fault. Hi, Lily, I managed. I'm glad to meet you. Catherine excused herself to get drinks from a nearby vendor, obviously trying to give us some time alone. Lily and I found a bench and sat down, an awkward silence settling between us. So, I said finally, your mum tells me you've been looking for your biological parents. She nodded. I always wondered, you know. My adoptive parents, Mom and Dad Wheeler, they're amazing, but there was always this piece missing. When I found Birth Mom through the DNA site, I thought maybe I could find that piece. And what did you think when she told you about me? Lily shrugged, a gesture that reminded me of Catherine. I was excited, I guess, and nervous. I wasn't sure if you'd want to meet me. I mean, you never tried to find me, so I thought maybe you didn't want to know about me. The pain in her voice was unmistakable. This kid had been carrying around the belief that her biological father didn't care about her existence. Of course I wanted to meet you, I said, and realized I meant it. Things are complicated between your mum and me. Because of the divorce, among other things. I looked at this earnest young face and felt a stab of anger at Catherine. How could she let this girl believe such hurtful lies? Can I ask you something? Lily said. Sure. Why didn't you ever try to find me? I mean, I know you and Mom didn't work out, But didn't you wonder about me? The question hit me like a punch to the gut. How could I explain that I'd never known she existed? That her mother had told me she'd miscarried? That the whole story she'd been living with was built on lies? It's complicated, I said finally. Your mother and we had some issues that made things difficult. It wasn't a lie exactly, but it wasn't the truth either. I hated being put in this position, having to navigate between Catherine's web of deceit and this girl's need to understand her origins. I understand if you didn't want to be a dad, Lily said quietly. I mean, you were young, and things were messed up with Mom. I just always wondered if you ever thought about me. I think about family a lot, I said carefully, about the paths we take and the choices we make. We talked for an hour. She told me about school, her friends, her dream of becoming a teacher. She was bright, funny, and surprisingly mature for 14. I found myself genuinely enjoying her company, which made the deception even harder to bear. She told me about her adoptive parents, who sounded like genuinely good people. Mark Wheeler was a high school principal, and Susan was a nurse. They'd adopted Lily as an infant and raised her with love and stability. They always told me that my birth parents loved me but couldn't take care of me, she said. They made sure I knew it wasn't because there was anything wrong with me. That sounds like they handled it well. Yeah, they're pretty great. But I still wondered, about where I came from, what you guys were like. When Catherine returned with drinks, Lily was laughing at something I'd said about my attempts at cooking. For a moment, it almost felt normal, like we were just a family having a conversation in the park. But as we prepared to leave, I felt the weight of the lies pressing down on me. This sweet, innocent kid was basing her understanding of herself on a complete fabrication. She deserved better than that. Can we do this again sometime? She asked as Catherine gathered her things. I'd like that, I said honestly. As they walked away, Lily turned back and waved. That simple gesture, this girl waving at me like I was someone important in her life, nearly brought me to my knees. That night, I couldn't stop thinking about our conversation. Lily was a remarkable kid, but she was building her identity on lies. She thought her biological father had abandoned her, when the truth was, he'd never known she existed. She thought Daniel was just some homewrecker who'd stolen her mother away, when actually he was her real father. The more I thought about it, the angrier I got at Catherine. She'd created this elaborate deception that hurt everyone involved, me, Lily, probably Daniel too. And now she expected me to perpetuate those lies to spare everyone's feelings. I called Catherine the next morning. We need to talk again, I said. There's more I need to know before I see Lily again. We met at the same coffee shop as before. Catherine looked hopeful when she saw me, probably thinking I was warming up to the idea of playing daddy to her ex-lover's child. How was it yesterday? She asked. Lily was so excited afterward. She's a good kid, I said, which makes what you're asking me to do even worse. Catherine's face fell. What do you mean? I mean, she deserves the truth, Catherine. She's been living with this story about being abandoned by her biological father, and it's obviously hurt her. She has a right to know who she really is. But if we tell her the truth now, she'll know that the adults in her life care more about her well-being than about protecting their own secrets. You don't understand. She's just starting to trust me again. If she finds out I lied about this too, then she'll be angry, and she'll have every right to be, but at least she'll know the truth. Catherine was quiet for a long moment. There's something else, she said finally. My stomach dropped. What now? The DNA results from when Lily found me. Catherine pulled out a folder and slid it across the table. There were some unexpected findings. I opened the folder and stared at the papers inside. They were genetic test results, full of numbers and percentages I didn't understand. "What am I looking at?" I asked. Catherine pointed to a section, highlighted in yellow. "The paternity analysis. It shows the probability of biological relationship between Lily and potential fathers." I scanned the document, my eyes stopping on two names, Daniel Martinez and Jack Thompson. My name. The probability that Daniel was Lily's biological father. 2. The probability that I was Lily's biological father. 99. 97. I read the numbers 3 times before they sank in. This can't be right. "I had them run the test twice," Catherine said quietly. "The results are the same." "But you told me the baby was Daniel's. You were so sure." I thought she was. The timing seemed right. But apparently, I was wrong. I stared at the paper, my mind reeling. Lily wasn't Daniel's daughter after all. She was mine. Actually, genuinely mine. "When did you find this out?" I asked. 3 days ago. The testing company sent me the full results, including the paternity analysis. I'd only seen the basic maternal match before. "So, all this time, when you were letting me believe I wasn't her father, she actually was my daughter." Catherine nodded, tears streaming down her face. "I don't understand how I got it wrong. I was so sure about the timeline." But I was starting to understand. Catherine had been sleeping with both of us during the same period. She'd assumed the baby was Daniel's because that fit the narrative she wanted, the one where she left me for him, and they started a new life together. She'd never bothered to verify it because it was convenient to believe it was true. "Do you realize what this means?" I asked, my voice shaking. "I've missed 14 years of my daughter's life because you made an assumption and never bothered to check if it was true." "I know, and I'm sorry." "Sorry?" I stood up, knocking over my chair. "Sorry doesn't give me back her first steps, her first day of school, her first heartbreak. Sorry doesn't undo 14 years of thinking I was too much of a failure to keep my own family together." Other customers were staring now, but I didn't care. I was looking at proof that I had a daughter I'd never known, never held, never had the chance to love and protect. "She's mine," I said, more to myself than to Catherine. "She's actually mine." "Yes," Catherine whispered, "and she wants to know you. She wants you to be her father." I sat back down, my legs suddenly weak. All this time, I'd been preparing to pretend to be someone else's child's father, when she was actually my own daughter. The girl who'd waved at me yesterday, who'd thanked me for meeting her, who'd asked why I'd never tried to find her. She was my flesh and blood. "Does she know?" I asked. "Not yet. I wanted to tell you first." "We have to tell her the truth. All of it." Catherine nodded. "How do you want to do this?" "Together. She deserves to hear it from both of us. And Catherine?" I looked her in the eye. "No more lies, no more half-truths. She gets the whole story, including why you thought Daniel was her father and why you gave her up for adoption." Catherine agreed, though I could see she was terrified of losing whatever relationship she was building with Lily. But I didn't care about Catherine's feelings anymore. I cared about my daughter, and making sure she finally knew the truth about who she was. We arranged to meet Lily the next day at the same park. As I walked home, my mind was racing with 1,000 different emotions. Joy at discovering I had a daughter, rage at Catherine for keeping her from me, grief for all the lost years, fear that Lily would reject me once she knew the whole truth. But underneath it all was something I hadn't felt in 15 years. Hope. I had a daughter, and she wanted to know me. Whatever happened next, that couldn't be taken away. That night, I lay awake staring at the ceiling, thinking about Lily, my daughter. I tried to imagine what she'd been like as a baby, as a toddler, as a little girl starting school. I thought about the Wheelers, who'd raised her with love while I'd been completely unaware of her existence. Part of me was grateful to them. They'd given her stability and affection when Catherine and I had been too messed up to provide it. But another part of me felt cheated out of the chance to be her father from the beginning. The next morning, I stood in front of my bathroom mirror, trying to figure out what you say to your daughter when you're meeting her for the second time, but learning she's yours for the first time. How do you explain 15 years of absence that wasn't your fault? How do you make up for lost time? I arrived at the park early again, my heart pounding with nervous energy. When I saw Catherine and Lily approaching, something was different. I wasn't looking at a stranger's child anymore. I was looking at my daughter. My own features reflected back at me in subtle ways I'd missed before. The way she tilted her head when she was thinking. The stubborn set of her jaw. The way she walked with purpose, even when she was nervous. "Hi," Lily said as they reached me, and I had to fight the urge to hug her. "Hi, sweetheart," I said, the endearment slipping out naturally. Catherine looked at me with surprise, and I realized I'd never called Lily that before. But something had shifted overnight. This wasn't just a kind gesture to help a confused teenager anymore. This was my daughter, and I was going to fight for her. "There's something we need to tell you," I said, as we sat down on our usual bench. "Something important about your biological parents." Lily looked between Catherine and me, her expression growing concerned. "What is it?" Catherine took a shaky breath. "The information I gave you about your biological father, it wasn't accurate." "What do you mean?" I leaned forward, looking directly into my daughter's eyes. "Daniel wasn't your biological father, Lily." "I am." She blinked, processing this information. "You mean, you're really my dad?" "Yes," I said simply. "You're my daughter." The next few seconds felt like an eternity. Lily looked at Catherine, then back at me, her face cycling through confusion, hurt, and something that might have been hope. "But Mom said," she started. "I made a mistake," Catherine interrupted. "A terrible mistake. I thought Daniel was your father because of the timing, but I was wrong. We just got the DNA results back, and Jack is definitely your biological father." Lily turned back to me, her eyes filling with tears. "So you really didn't know about me?" "I had no idea you existed," I said honestly. "If I had known, I would have moved heaven and earth to be part of your life. And all this time, I thought you just didn't want me." The pain in her voice broke my heart. I reached out without thinking and took her hand. "I would have wanted you more than anything in the world. You're my daughter, Lily. You're the best thing that ever happened to me, even if I just found out about it yesterday." For the first time since meeting her, Lily smiled, a real, genuine smile that lit up her whole face. "Really?" she asked. "Really?" Over the next hour, Catherine and I told her the whole story. The affair, the confusion about paternity, the fake miscarriage, the adoption. It was painful and complicated, but Lily deserved the truth. She cried when she learned about the fake miscarriage. "So you thought you lost a baby, and it was actually me?" "Yes," I said. "I grieved for you before I ever knew you existed." She was quiet for a long time after that, processing everything we'd told her. Finally, she looked up at me with those blue eyes that I now recognized as my own. "What happens now?" she asked. "Now we get to know each other," I said. "If you want to." "I do want to, but it's a lot to take in." "I know. We don't have to figure everything out today. We have time." As we prepared to leave, Lily surprised me by giving me a hug. It was quick and tentative, but it was real. My daughter was hugging me. "Thank you for wanting me," she whispered. I had to clear my throat before I could speak. "Thank you for finding me." Over the following weeks, Lily and I began the delicate process of building a relationship. It wasn't like suddenly having a teenage daughter. There was too much history and pain for it to be that simple. Instead, it was like getting to know a remarkable young person who happened to share my DNA. We started slowly. Coffee dates after school where she'd tell me about her day. Walks in the park where I'd share stories about my own childhood. Movie nights where we discovered we both had terrible taste in comedies. Each interaction was a small piece of the puzzle we were putting together, who we were as individuals and who we might become as father and daughter. Lily was careful with her questions at first, testing the waters to see how much truth I could handle. But gradually, she opened up about her life, her fears, her dreams. She told me about struggling with math but loving English class, about her best friend Marcus, who made her laugh until her stomach hurt, about wanting to be a teacher like her adoptive mother Susan, but being scared she wasn't smart enough. "You're plenty smart," I told her during one of our park walks. "You ask thoughtful questions, you listen to the answers, and you care about people. Those are the most important qualities a teacher can have." "Did you ever want to be a teacher?" she asked. "I thought about it in college, but I was worried about making enough money, so I went into accounting instead." "Do you regret it?" I considered the question seriously. "Sometimes, I wonder what my life would have been like if I'd been brave enough to follow my dreams instead of playing it safe." "Maybe it's not too late," she said. "You could volunteer at schools or something. Share your knowledge with kids who need help with math." It was such a simple suggestion, but it planted a seed in my mind. Here was this 14-year-old girl, my daughter, encouraging me to pursue dreams I'd given up on decades ago. The more time we spent together, the more I recognized pieces of myself in her. She had my stubbornness. Once she made up her mind about something, it was nearly impossible to change it. She had my dry sense of humor, finding irony in situations where others might miss it. And she had my tendency to overthink things, analyzing every conversation and interaction until she'd wrung every possible meaning from it. But she also had qualities that were uniquely her own, a kindness that seemed to come naturally, especially toward people who were struggling, a maturity that probably came from growing up knowing she was adopted, from having to grapple with complex questions about identity and belonging from an early age. A resilience that I envied. She'd been hurt by the adults in her life, but she hadn't let it make her bitter or closed off. 3 weeks after learning she was my daughter, Lily asked if she could meet Rebecca, my sister. "I want to meet my aunt," she said, and the word aunt made my heart skip a beat. I called Rebecca that night to ask if she'd be comfortable meeting Lily. "Of course," she said immediately. "When do I get to meet my niece?" We arranged a dinner at Rebecca's house the following weekend. I was nervous about it. Rebecca had strong opinions and wasn't always tactful about expressing them, but I needn't have worried. Within 10 minutes of meeting Lily, Rebecca was showing her photo albums from my childhood, telling embarrassing stories that made Lily laugh until she snorted. "Your dad was such a serious kid," Rebecca told her, pointing to a picture of me at 8 years old, glowering at the camera in a suit and tie. "Always worried about doing the right thing, following all the rules. Mom used to joke that he was born middle-aged." "He's still pretty serious," Lily said, grinning at me, "but I'm working on getting him to loosen up." "Good luck with that," Rebecca said. "I've been trying for 53 years. Watching them together, my sister and my daughter, felt like watching two puzzle pieces click into place. Lily fit into my family in a way that felt natural, inevitable, like she'd always belonged there, and we'd just been waiting for her to find her way home. After dinner, while Lily and Rebecca looked at more photo albums, I stepped outside for some air. The magnitude of what had happened was still hitting me in waves. 3 weeks ago, I'd been a middle-aged bachelor with a quiet, predictable life. Now, I had a daughter who called me Dad, and an extended family that was eager to embrace her. Rebecca found me on her back porch a few minutes later. "She's wonderful, Jack," she said simply. "Yeah, she is." "You okay?" I thought about the question. Was I okay? I was overwhelmed, certainly. Grateful beyond words. Still angry at Catherine for the years we'd lost. Terrified of screwing up this second chance. "I keep waiting for the other shoe to drop," I admitted. "This feels too good to be real." "Maybe that's because you're not used to good things happening to you," Rebecca said gently. "You've spent so many years expecting disappointment that you don't know how to accept joy when it shows up." She was probably right. After Catherine's betrayal, I'd armored myself against hope. It was safer to expect nothing than to risk being crushed again. "What if I'm not good at this?" I asked. "What if I don't know how to be a father?" "Jack, look at me." Rebecca waited until I met her eyes. "You've been getting to know her for 3 weeks, and she's already calling you Dad. You've made her feel wanted and valued and loved. You're already being a good father." As if summoned by our conversation, Lily appeared in the doorway. "Are you guys talking about me?" she asked with a knowing smile. "Always," Rebecca said. "We're plotting ways to embarrass you." "Too late," Lily said. "You already showed me the naked baby pictures." "Those weren't naked baby pictures," I protested. "That was me at 2 years old in the bathtub." "Same difference," Lily said, but she was laughing. That night, as I drove Lily back to the Wheelers' house, she was quiet for most of the trip. Finally, as we pulled into their driveway, she turned to me. "Can I ask you something?" "Of course." "Are you happy that I found you? I mean really happy, not just saying it to be nice." The question caught me off guard with its earnestness. "Lily, finding out you're my daughter is the best thing that's happened to me in 15 years, maybe ever." "Really? Really? Why do you ask?" She shrugged, suddenly looking younger than her 14 years. "Sometimes I worry that I'm disrupting your life. You had everything figured out, and then I showed up and changed everything." I pulled the car into park and turned to face her fully. "Lily, listen to me. My life wasn't figured out. It was just empty. I was going through the motions, day after day, not really living. You didn't disrupt anything. You gave me a reason to actually be alive again." Her eyes filled with tears. "I love you, Dad." It was the first time she'd said it directly, and the words hit me like a physical force. "I love you too, sweetheart. More than I knew it was possible to love someone." We sat in comfortable silence for a moment. Then Lily wiped her eyes and reached for the door handle. "Hey, Dad." "Yeah?" "Next weekend, can we do something just the two of us? Like mini golf, or bowling, or something completely ridiculous?" I laughed. "Absolutely. Though I should warn you, I'm terrible at both mini golf and bowling." "Perfect. I'll have a chance to beat you at something." As I watched her walk up to the Wheelers' front door, I felt a contentment I hadn't experienced in years. This was what I'd been missing, without even knowing it. Not just the love of a child, but the specific, irreplaceable love of my child. But even as Lily and I were building our relationship, Catherine remained a complicated presence in both our lives. She was genuinely trying to make amends, both to me and to Lily, but the damage from her lies ran deep. About a month after our revelation in the park, Catherine asked to meet with me alone. She looked healthier than she had in our previous meetings, like the weight of keeping secrets had been lifted from her shoulders. "I know I don't have the right to ask you for anything," she began, "but I need to tell you something else." My stomach clenched. "If this is another bombshell—" "It's not about Lily," she said quickly. "It's about me. I've been to the doctor." Something in her tone made me pay closer attention. "What kind of doctor?" "An oncologist. I've been having some health issues, and after running some tests—" She took a shaky breath. "I have cancer, Jack. Ovarian cancer, stage 3. The words hung in the air between us. Despite everything she'd done to me, my first instinct was sympathy. No one deserved that kind of diagnosis. "I'm sorry," I said, and meant it. "The doctors say I have a good chance if we caught it early enough. I'm starting treatment next week." She paused, fidgeting with her purse strap. "I wanted you to know because if something happens to me, Lily's going to need you even more." The thought of explaining death and loss to my daughter, whom I'd only recently found, made my chest tight. "Have you told her?" "Not yet. I wanted to see how the first round of treatment goes before I worry her. Catherine, she has a right to know, especially after everything that's happened." "I know. I don't want her to feel like she has to take care of me. She's already been through so much." I studied Catherine's face, seeing genuine fear and regret there. It occurred to me that she was probably as terrified of losing Lily as I was of losing the chance to be her father. "She's stronger than you think," I said finally, "and she's not alone anymore. Whatever happens, I'll be here for her." Catherine's eyes filled with tears. "Thank you. I know I don't deserve your kindness after what I did." "This isn't about you and me anymore," I interrupted. "It's about Lily. She loves you, despite everything, and you're her mother. I'm not going to let our history hurt her any more than it already has." 2 days later, Catherine told Lily about the cancer diagnosis. Lily called me that night, crying so hard I could barely understand her words. "Can you come over?" she asked. "I know it's late, but I really need to talk to you." I was at the Wheelers' house in 15 minutes. Mark and Susan Wheeler were kind people who'd been surprisingly gracious about suddenly sharing their daughter with her biological parents. They welcomed me in and gave us privacy to talk. Lily and I sat in their living room, and I held her while she cried out her fear and frustration. "I just found her again," she sobbed. "It's not fair." "I know, sweetheart, it's not fair. What if she dies? What if I lose her before we figure things out?" "Then we'll face it together," I said. "Whatever happens, you won't be alone." "Promise?" "I promise." Over the following months, as Catherine went through chemotherapy, Lily and I continued building our relationship while also supporting her through her mother's illness. It wasn't easy. Watching someone you care about suffer through cancer treatment is never easy, and it was especially hard on a 14-year-old who was already dealing with complex emotions about family and identity. But in some ways, Catherine's illness brought Lily and me closer together. She needed someone to lean on, someone who could be strong when she couldn't be. I'd missed 14 years of protecting my daughter, but I could protect her now. We established new routines. I picked her up from school twice a week and took her to visit Catherine in the hospital or at home, depending on how she was feeling. On weekends, when Catherine was too sick for visits, Lily would stay with me and we'd work on homework together or watch old movies on my couch. Those quiet evenings were some of my favorites. There's something magical about having your child fall asleep next to you while watching a movie, about being trusted with their vulnerability in such a simple, everyday way. One evening, about 3 months into Catherine's treatment, Lily looked up from her algebra homework and asked, "Dad, do you think Mum is going to be okay?" I'd been dreading this question, partly because I didn't know the answer, and partly because I didn't want to give her false hope or unnecessary fear. "I don't know," I said honestly. "The doctors seem optimistic, and your mum is fighting hard, but cancer is unpredictable. Are you scared?" "I'm scared for you," I said. "I'm scared of you having to go through losing someone important to you." "What about you? Are you scared of losing her?" It was a complicated question. Was I scared of losing Catherine? Not in the way I would have been 15 years ago, when I thought I loved her. But I was scared of what her death would do to Lily. and I was scared of losing the opportunity for Catherine to make real amends for the pain she'd caused. "I'm scared of unfinished business," I said finally. "There are still things your mum and I need to work through, for your sake and ours." Lily nodded like she understood. "She talks about you sometimes when we're at the hospital. She says she's proud of the kind of father you're becoming. What do you think? Am I becoming a good father?" She set down her pencil and looked at me seriously. "You're the best father I could have asked for, even if we didn't get to start from the beginning." Those words meant more to me than any performance review or professional accolade ever could. Catherine's treatment progressed better than anyone had expected. By month 6, her tumors were shrinking, and her energy was returning. She wasn't out of the woods yet, but the prognosis was increasingly positive. As she got healthier, the three of us, Catherine, Lily, and I, had to figure out how to navigate our relationships going forward. We weren't a traditional family, and we never would be, but we were connected by our love for Lily, and that had to be enough. One afternoon, while Lily was at a friend's house, Catherine and I met for coffee to discuss practical matters: custody arrangements, decision-making responsibilities, how to handle holidays and special occasions. "I want you to know," Catherine said, "I'm not going to fight you for custody or try to limit your time with her. You're her father, and you've proven that you'll put her needs first. What about you? What do you want?" "I want to be part of her life, if she'll have me, but I know I have to earn that. I know trust isn't something I can just ask for. I have to build it over time." It wasn't the conversation I would have imagined having with Catherine 15 years ago. Back then, everything between us was about competition, about winning and losing. Now, it was just about loving the same person and wanting what was best for her. "She needs both of us," I said, "in different ways, but she needs both of us." Catherine nodded. "I'm grateful you're willing to share her with me. After everything I did, you would have been justified in trying to push me out entirely. Lily wouldn't have forgiven me for that. And honestly, seeing you fight for your life these past months, it's reminded me that people can change, that people can grow." As Lily's 15th birthday approached, we decided to throw her a party together: the Wheelers, Catherine, me, and Rebecca. It felt like the kind of celebration she deserved, surrounded by everyone who loved her. The party was held at the Wheelers' house, and watching Lily blow out her candles, surrounded by her family, all of her family, felt like a small miracle. Here was this girl who'd started life as a secret, given up by parents who were too young and too messed up to raise her, and she'd ended up with more love than most kids could ever hope for. After the other guests left, Lily asked if she could talk to Catherine and me together. The three of us sat in the Wheelers' backyard as the sun set, and Lily took both our hands. "I wanted to tell you both something," she said. "This year has been really hard in a lot of ways. Learning about all the lies, dealing with Mum's cancer, trying to figure out where I fit in everyone's lives. But it's also been the best year of my life." Catherine and I exchanged a look over her head. "Why?" Catherine asked softly. "Because for the first time, I feel like I know who I am. Not just the story I was told about being adopted, but the real story. The complicated, messy, sometimes painful, real story." She squeezed both our hands. "And I know that both of you love me enough to tell me the truth, even when it's hard." That night, driving home alone, I thought about the strange path that had led us to this point. If Catherine hadn't called me that Thursday night 15 years later, I might never have known Lily existed. If she hadn't lied about the paternity, we might not have discovered the truth about our biological connection. If she hadn't gotten sick, we might not have learned to work together for Lily's sake. It was impossible to say that I was grateful for Catherine's deceptions. They had caused too much pain for too many years. But I was grateful for where those deceptions had ultimately led us to truth, to healing, to a family that was unconventional but real. 2 years have passed since that first phone call. Lily is 17 now, a senior in high school with college plans and dreams that seem to grow bigger every month. Catherine has been in remission for over a year, and while the fear of recurrence never completely goes away, she's healthy and present in Lily's life in a way that feels sustainable. As for me, I took Lily's advice about pursuing my dreams. I started volunteering as a math tutor at the local high school, and last year I was hired as a part-time instructor at the community college. It's not the full teaching career I once imagined, but it's meaningful work that makes me feel like I'm contributing something valuable to the world. Lily and I have settled into a routine that works for all of us. She spends weekends with me, we have dinner together twice a week, and I attend every school play, science fair, and parent-teacher conference I can manage. I'm not trying to replace Mark and Susan Wheeler. They'll always be her real parents in the ways that matter most. But I'm her father too, and that role has given my life a purpose and joy I never thought I'd experience. Sometimes people ask me if I'm angry about the lost years, the 14 birthdays I missed, the first steps I never saw. The truth is, I can't afford to be angry about that anymore. Anger keeps you looking backward, and I need to keep looking forward. I need to focus on the years we have left, the memories we're still making. Last month, Lily asked me to walk her down the aisle at her wedding someday. You and Dad Wheeler, she clarified, one on each arm. The request made me cry, which embarrassed me but delighted her. You're such a softie, Dad, she teased, but she was crying too. Only when it comes to you, I said, and that's the truth. Lily has made me vulnerable in ways I never expected. She's cracked open this protective shell I'd built around my heart and reminded me what it feels like to love someone more than your own life. She's taught me that families can be messy and complicated and still be real. That forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting, but it does mean choosing love over resentment. That second chances are possible, even when they come 15 years too late. This morning, Lily called to tell me she'd been accepted to her first-choice college. She's going to study education, she says, because she wants to help kids who feel lost or different understand that they belong somewhere. I learned that from you, she told me. You showed me that it's never too late to find where you belong. But she's got it backward. She's the one who showed me that. She's the one who found me when I didn't even know I was lost. Some gifts come wrapped in tragedy, disguised as loss, hidden behind lies that took years to unravel. But they're gifts nonetheless. And the gift of being Lily's father, however late it arrived, has transformed my life in ways I'm still discovering. The phone call that changed everything came 15 years too late, but it came, and that's what matters. Sometimes the best thing you can say about life is that it's full of surprises, and some of them are wonderful.